Do you want to make a rope bridge that looks like this? What about one that you can pick up and it doesn't just flop like it looks like it should do and then displace somewhere else? Well, in this video, you'll be seeing exactly how I make this exact rope bridge that I've made in this video. The way this is going to be made is that we're going to have a piece here like this, a piece here like that, and then string between, and then obviously the slats going across. But because of something we're going to do, we're actually going to be able to pick up the bridge and it's not going to be all floppy as if it's made out of string. 5, I think I'm going to go with 6. You can just cut through this just by going across it with a sharp knife a few times. But we are going to carve off. And what this does is it creates this kind of taper effect, so that when this is on a bit of scenery, it blends in rather than sticks out. And you can also pick it up like this. Need 2 of them. I've realised it's actually a benefit to have the inside part be tapered off as well. So those are our 2 edges. Some thin dowel, and we want to be cutting this into a suitable length. A suitable length is probably about 1 inch. I generally find the best way to cut this is to get some snippy pliers and just... These bits do not need to be exactly the same length. Doing this means they will fly across the room, so be aware of that. Sandpaper, I'm just going to create a bit of a flatter edge on one of the edges. Now these are going to be glued. The gap between these less than 40, so if I mark a central thing here, I'm probably going to glue them about here, I think. Something like that. You've glued, you can be a little bit liberal with the amount of glue that you put down. The most important thing is that you get it's nicely stuck, and you want this to be vertical. Going more on the outer edge of that and just gonna. That is fine. Right, for the slats, we are going to be using every crafter's favourite thing, the humble lolly stick. You need to decide how wide your bridge is going to be, and it's going to be basically as wide as these are. Yeah, just under 4 centimetres, so our slats need to be the same. Now the best way I find to cut lolly sticks is to get some, so these are kind of what I call grippy pliers, but they have a sharp bit in the middle, so I used to cut the dowel earlier, and to not try and cut through, but squeeze and snap. Okay, and that does 2 things. It's much quicker than trying to kind of snip through, and it creates these kind of cool random ends to it. Better to be slightly over than slightly under. When you squeeze, break, to be all exactly the same size, that this has to be roughly. I feel like that is too big from a realism point of view, so what I'm going to do is take a sharp knife, and if you just press down, because the grain runs that way, if you just press down and kind of work your way along, then it eventually just well, not eventually, pretty much instantly cracks along that line. I feel that is a much more suitable size things. So I'm going to make a whole bunch more of these. So how many of these do you need? Well, it depends on how long your bridge is. So my bridge is going to be 10 centimetres, which is from here to here. So I've made enough to cover up to 7, which means I can have a good amount of, a bit of gap between them all. And it's good to have a few extra, and you can have some fallen down ones, you could have some crooked ones and all sorts. On to the next stage. This bit is a little bit time consuming, a tiny bit fiddly, but it's what I found to be the best way of doing it. So you want to take some string. The temptation with this is to kind of like wrap it around, do the next one, wrap it around, do the next one, wrap it around. That's not what I found to be best. Best thing I found to do is to get your string and just tie like your basic knot where, don't know if you know how to tie a knot. Just like that. Tighten it up, stick the end through pull as hard as you can, and then done. The other side, and this defines the width of your bridge. You want to make, and still didn't get scissors, but you're going to do that with all of them. And once you've done that, you get, it doesn't have to be an Indian takeaway menu, it can be a Chinese one. This is watered down PVA, and you're just gonna apply that to those knots. So I'm gonna take some more string, only this is not normal string. Well, it is string which has taken a bath in this and then been left to dry. And what this means is this is stiff. We have our bridge sides and we want the gap to be 10 centimeters. So I'm going to tie a knot. Get this right down to the bottom here. And this next bit is probably the fiddliest bit of the whole thing, because we need to tie a knot around this. As long as that stays where it is, then the position is going to be correct. So a little fiddly, because we want it to be the right distance, but obviously it's only a knot that I'm tying, so it is very much adjustable. That's exactly where I want it to be. So that's done. We're going to let that rest and dry. With that glue dryer, it's a case of just kind of snipping this down. I mean, you could do this straight away, but I think it gives it a lot more chance of the knot coming undone, which is not what you want to have. Yeah, I'll stop the dad jokes. But I'm going to go through and do this on all of them so that they look like that. So these knots are pretty much dried in place. There will be more stuff to help them stick even further if they're not quite there yet. You can add some super glue, you could add some hot glue, but I'd rather not be doing that. So I'm going to cut over here just a little notch. If you tie a knot and leave it open like we did with the things here, and put it around about shoulder height, hand height for models, and then we're going to tuck that into that notch there. Then we're going to tie another knot at the other end. I think you can see where this is going already. But we want it to feel like, yeah, there's some weight on the bridge. So you do want it to feel tight. To show you here, I'm getting that to that length there, and then I'm getting that to there, and then I'm feeding the knot through so the knot goes into the position I want it to and the height I want it to. So that's 10. Now that feels like, because this we want to kind of be drooping down slightly, so that feels like perfect tension there. So I'm going to snip this off here, and then I'm going to tuck that into the notch there. But I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side now as well. Okay, this is a fiddly thing to get these to lengths that you're happy with. I have snipped off the excess on this, and I've also, with the glue gun, just put a little bit of glue underneath these knots just to hold them down and hold them in place, because they were moving more than I'd like them to. Right, these notches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the top here, and then I'm just going to pull this round into that so that glues it in place, and then I'll snip off the excess underneath. But I like the idea of that looking like it's got tension on it, even if it actually doesn't. These often, hopefully I'm cover this in PVA glue. We could have done this first, but what I'm trying to do here, I'm going to put some right on the edges here. I really want to try and make it look like the rope is going into the ground. That's why I've cut that notch at the edge. it's kind of been pegged down there or something. So that's this side glue. I'm going to hold these rope bits out of the way. We have a blend of blocks here, and I'm just going to, I haven't got much glue anywhere apart from where I wanted it to be, so it should only really stick where I wanted it to stick. It's to match up with the kind of summary board that I've made. Ultimately, that's looking like what I want it to look like, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing to the other side. Bring this up to the camera. Honestly think it looks like these poles are going into the ground and the string as well, so delighted with that. I've got some extra bits of this MDF here, and this serves no purpose other than providing a little bit of height. What's great about adding more of this glue is it adds even more stiffness to the string, which is pretending to be rope. And I try and put the knots knot side down, and it's going to place this like that, and then rinse and repeat. So you get to decide exactly how far apart your things are. I try and make the rope go next to the knots. That way it looks more like it's kind of wrapped around it or whatever. All the way along that, because probably should have put something underneath, but it's going to drip down through all of the rope things, and just provide an extra bit of that extra bit of stiffness, and it's going to provide, and hopefully it's going to help to hold the bridge in this kind of dropped shape as well. And here it is finished off, and this is my favourite thing about this bridge, is that you can pick it up like that, move it wherever else you want to, but that is pretty solid.